Let me ask you something a little uncomfortable, but real. Have you ever sat alone, maybe late at night, and quietly wondered, is this okay? Is what I'm doing hurting me? Helping me? Or is it something no one ever really talks about, but maybe they should? You know what I mean? Those private moments you don't really mention to anyone, especially not at this stage in life. It's not like there's a handbook handed out when you hit 60 that says, hey, here's what's healthy, and here's what might be doing more harm than good. But let's be honest, you've probably heard it both ways. Some folks say daily masturbation is great for your prostate. Others shake their heads and claim it's the reason so many men run into problems later in life. So what's the truth? Because let's face it, you're not 25 anymore. Your body feels different. Your energy isn't the same. You notice small changes. Maybe it takes a little longer to get going. Maybe the urgency to urinate is more frequent. Maybe you just feel off and you don't know why. And yet, no one's really talking to you about this. They skip over men in their 60s, 70s, 80s as if intimacy, health, and yes, pleasure just suddenly become irrelevant after a certain age. But here's the truth. Your prostate still matters. Your habits still matter. And your questions? They deserve answers. So today, we're pulling the curtain back gently but honestly and looking at what daily masturbation actually does to your prostate. The good, the bad, and the surprising middle ground that no one really explains. By the end of this video, you'll walk away with the facts, not rumors. You'll understand what science really says. And most importantly, you'll feel more in control of your own body, your choices, and your health. Because this isn't just about sex. It's about peace of mind. It's about confidence. It's about taking care of yourself in a way that actually makes a difference. So before we get started, I'd love to know, where are you watching from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments and let me know what time it is there. It's amazing to see how many of us in the ElderWisdom family are having these conversations together from around the world. And hey, if you care about elderly health, real talk, and clear answers, hit that subscribe button. This is a safe space. We don't shame here. We share. We grow. We get stronger together. Now let's talk about the prostate and the truth about your most private habit. Number 1, temporary prostate drainage and tension relief. Let me tell you something a man in our community once shared with me quietly, almost like he was confessing a secret. He said, you know, I never thought much of it, but I've noticed that when I release regularly, I feel lighter. Not just in the body, but in the head. Less tense, like something's been unclogged. At first, he didn't understand what was happening. He just chalked it up to age, figured maybe it was a fluke. But the truth is, he was feeling something very real, something rooted in the way the body works. See, as men get older, the prostate doesn't always empty as smoothly as it once did. Things slow down, fluids build up. And over time, that buildup can cause pressure, discomfort, a sense that something isn't quite right, but you can't put your finger on it. That's where prostate drainage comes in. Now, I know that's not a term you hear every day, but it's exactly what it sounds like. When you ejaculate, even through solo activity, you help your body release those fluids that can otherwise pool in the prostate and create congestion. It's like letting air out of an overfilled tire. There's relief. There's comfort. There's space again. And this isn't some fantasy talk, there's real science backing it up. Urologists have found that regular ejaculation may help reduce the risk of painful prostate inflammation by keeping the gland clear and active. It helps reduce swelling, improves circulation to that area, and even lowers the chances of infection in some men. But here's where it gets interesting. A lot of older men grew up hearing the opposite, that abstinence equals strength. That holding back is somehow cleaner, purer, or more disciplined. And, hey, I get that. We were raised with certain beliefs. But biologically, that logic doesn't hold up. In fact, when the prostate goes too long without emptying, some men report a dull ache, pelvic pressure, or even urinary problems. And they never realize that the cause could be something as simple and natural as lack of release. So, if you've been holding back out of fear, shame, or old beliefs, maybe it's time to rethink things. I'm not telling you to go overboard. I'm not saying you need to change your routine overnight. But it's worth asking, is my discomfort something I could actually ease with just a little balance? Because here's the thing, moderation really is key. If you do it too often, especially when it's out of boredom, anxiety, or habit, you may end up replacing relief with fatigue. But if you do it too little, especially in your older years, you might be putting extra stress on your prostate without even knowing it. So take a moment, check in with your body. Notice the signs. Ask yourself what feels right, not based on guilt, but based on your comfort and clarity. And just remember, there's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to health at our age. Only what keeps you feeling steady, relaxed, and well. But let's not stop here, because while some of these effects can be soothing and even helpful, there's another side to the story. And sometimes, too much of a good thing can quietly become a problem. Let's talk about that next. Number 2, possible increase in inflammation risk. You know, another gentleman I spoke with, he's in his early 70s, a retired postmaster, told me something that really stuck. He said, "I started getting this dull ache right in my groin, thought maybe I pulled something in the yard, but it kept coming back. Sometimes it felt like pressure, other times like a warm sting. I didn't think it had anything to do with what I was doing in private." And that right there is where a lot of men find themselves. Because let's be real, when discomfort shows up in that area, we're quick to blame everything else. Oh, it's just age. Maybe I sat too long. Probably just need to stretch. But we don't always consider that our own habits, even the ones we keep behind closed doors, might be playing a role. Here's the truth. While moderate masturbation can help reduce prostate tension, doing it too often without enough rest can actually irritate the prostate in certain men, especially those who already have minor inflammation going on under the surface. There's a condition called prostatitis. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe not. It's not cancer, it's not deadly, but it is uncomfortable. It can cause pain during urination, a heavy feeling in the pelvis, lower back aches, and even discomfort during ejaculation. And guess what can make it worse? Overstimulation. You see, the prostate isn't a tire you can just keep pumping every day without consequences. Like any other part of the body, it needs recovery. It needs rest. If you're engaging in self-stimulation too frequently, especially out of habit or emotional stress, you could be unknowingly keeping the area inflamed. And here's the kicker. Most men don't recognize it as a real issue. They write it off as just another part of aging. They wait, they ignore, they search the internet late at night, hoping to find something comforting. But friend, if you're feeling burning, aching pressure, or you're waking up too often at night, needing to urinate, and it's becoming your new normal, don't assume it's harmless. Don't try to tough it out. And please, don't rely on guesswork. Talk to a urologist. There's no shame in it. In fact, it's a wise move. A strong move to get answers from someone who understands exactly how the male body changes with age. And who can give you real guidance, not guesses. Remember, your body is speaking to you. It always has been. The question is, are you listening? Because everything you feel, every ache, every shift, every tiny signal is a message. And when it comes to your prostate, those messages should never be ignored. But now that we've talked about the risks of too much, let's turn the page for a moment. Because believe it or not, there's a powerful benefit to regular ejaculation that might actually shock you. Let's talk about the big one, the one every man quietly worries about, prostate cancer, and whether your habits could actually help lower your risk. Number 3. Lowered prostate cancer risk. You know, it was sometime in the early 2000s when researchers published a study that turned quite a few heads. Not because it was flashy, Not because it made headlines in every household, but because it quietly challenged one of the biggest assumptions men have carried for decades. They found that men who ejaculated more frequently, around 21 times a month, actually had a significantly lower risk of developing prostate cancer later in life. Yes, you heard that right. More, not less, seem to offer some protection. Now, I know what you might be thinking. 21 times? That's every day. And for some men in their 60s, 70s, or 80s, that number sounds unrealistic, maybe even a little laughable. And that's okay, because the point here isn't about hitting a number. It's not a competition. It's not a challenge. It's about consistency, moderation, and the understanding that our bodies, especially the prostate, thrive when fluids move, when buildup is reduced, and when systems aren't left stagnant. Think of it like this. When a river flows freely, the water stays clean. But when water sits still for too long, bacteria grow. Things get cloudy. Things back up. Problems start forming where there used to be none. That's how researchers believe regular ejaculation might help lower cancer risk. It's about keeping things moving, flushing out old fluids, reducing inflammation, and maybe even clearing out potential cancer-causing agents that might otherwise sit and settle in the prostate over time. Now here's where it gets even more important. Many older men, good men, wise men, stop all forms of sexual activity completely. Sometimes it's due to a medical condition. Other times it's because they've lost a partner or feel too ashamed to talk about it. And sometimes it's because society has told them that sex is something for the young, that it no longer belongs in their life story. But that silence? That withdrawal? It could be quietly taking away a tool for prevention. Again, this isn't about obsession. It's not about making your private life your entire identity. It's about respecting your body enough to understand what it needs to stay healthy, even now, even at this stage. So no, you don't have to chase a calendar. You don't have to force anything that doesn't feel right. But what you can do is listen to your body and let go of the fear that says you're too old to care. Because if this habit, when done in balance, can offer even a chance at reducing your risk for something as serious as prostate cancer, then maybe it's time we all started talking about it openly, without shame. You've earned that right. To be informed, to take action, and to protect yourself without feeling judged for it. But like everything else in life, there's a line. A point where something helpful, even healthy, can slowly become too much. Too frequent, too compulsive, too draining. And when that happens, you're not just affecting your prostate anymore. You're affecting your mind, your mood, your energy, your motivation. Let's talk about that next. Because the trap of doing it too often isn't always physical. Sometimes it starts up here in your head, and most men don't even see it coming. Number 4, the addiction trap and hormonal imbalance. There's a man I once met, widower, in his late, soft-spoken kind. The kind of man who doesn't say much unless you really sit down and ask. He told me, with a look I'll never forget, after my wife passed, I didn't know what to do with the silence. I started comforting myself, just to fill the time. At first, it helped, gave me something. But after a while, it became something else. He didn't feel better anymore. He felt empty, tired, frustrated, and stuck in a loop that felt less like relief and more like a trap. You see, when masturbation becomes more than a physical release, when it turns into a daily habit just to feel something or escape the loneliness, that's when the real danger starts creeping in. It doesn't happen all at once. It sneaks in slowly. You start to feel like you need it just to sleep, just to relax, just to pass the time. But here's what many men don't realize, especially as we age. Every time you release, your brain lights up. It floods with dopamine, the feel-good chemical that gives you that sense of pleasure and reward. Now, that's not a bad thing in moderation. Dopamine is part of what makes us feel alive, motivated, connected, But when the brain starts relying on that same quick hit every day, sometimes multiple times a day, it begins to shift the balance. Over time, your natural dopamine levels can drop, leaving you feeling numb, less motivated, more irritable, and sometimes even depressed. What used to give you relief starts to feel like a burden, but you keep going back to it anyway. And here's the kicker. That repetitive stimulation can also mess with your testosterone levels. You may start to feel weaker. Your drive dips, your energy fades, and you just can't figure out why. It's not always age. Sometimes it's the chemical imbalance caused by overuse of something your body was never meant to rely on so heavily. Now, I'm not saying masturbation is bad. We've already talked about how it can support prostate health when done in balance. But compulsion is never healthy, no matter what form it takes. It's the difference between choosing something and being chained to it. And this is where many older men fall into the trap, especially after loss, retirement, or isolation. You find yourself alone with too much time, too many memories, and not enough support. And what begins as comfort slowly turns into something that pulls you further away from the life you want to live. So here's my gentle advice to you. Pay attention to your emotional state. If you're doing it just because you're bored, anxious, lonely, or trying to fill a deeper void, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, what am I really needing right now? Sometimes the answer isn't release. It's connection. It's purpose. It's healing. And those things, my friend, take more than a few minutes in private. It's okay to comfort yourself, but it's not okay to lose yourself in the process. You deserve balance. You deserve peace. And most of all, you deserve to feel like you're in control, not just of your body, but of your mind, your emotions, and your choices. Because when your habits are in harmony with your health, everything changes. Your energy, your clarity, your strength. You begin to feel like yourself again. And just when you think you've learned everything there is to know about how this habit affects the prostate, there's one more effect, one that most men never see coming. It's subtle at first, easy to miss. But if you've ever had trouble starting or stopping your stream, if you've ever felt heaviness or strain in your lower belly, you might be dealing with something deeper than you think. Let's talk about the pelvic floor and the unexpected way daily stimulation can throw it out of balance. Number 5. Pelvic floor strain and urinary issues. Now, here's something most men never connect. They start noticing little things, like struggling to get the flow started when they use the bathroom, or feeling like they didn't empty completely. Maybe there's a weird heaviness down there, or a nagging pressure in the lower belly that doesn't seem to go away. And you'd be surprised how many guys shrug it off. They think, it's just the prostate again, or probably drank too much coffee. But what if I told you that some of those urinary issues, those slow starts, frequent urges, even that mild leakage when you cough or laugh, could actually be connected to a part of your body you don't hear much about? The pelvic floor. Now stay with me here, because this is one of those quiet truths that can make a world of difference if you understand it. Your pelvic floor is a group of muscles that sit like a hammock across the bottom of your pelvis. They support your bladder. They cradle your prostate. They help control your flow, your pressure, even your ability to feel during intimacy. In younger years, these muscles tend to work behind the scenes, no problem. But as we get older, especially after 50, they start to weaken. And if you're overstimulating that area every single day without giving it time to recover, you're wearing those muscles out even faster. You might think you're training the area by staying active, but in truth, it's the opposite. Overuse without rest leads to strain, and strain leads to fatigue. Fatigue turns into poor control, and suddenly you find yourself in a bathroom stall, wondering why your stream hesitates, why you feel tension in your lower gut, or why you're waking up 3, 4, 5 times a night. And here's the part no one tells you. Most men don't feel their pelvic floor muscles like they do a bicep or leg muscle. It's subtle. It's internal. You don't realize it's weak until your body starts sending signals through things like dribbling, urgency, or that dreaded can't quite finish feeling. But here's the good news. This is not a life sentence. You're not stuck with this forever. You can support your pelvic floor, even rebuild its strength. How? Through simple, daily pelvic floor exercises, also known as Kegels. And no, they're not just for women. Men benefit from them just as much, especially men who want better bladder control, stronger prostate support, and more confidence in those private, personal moments. All it takes is a little intention. Tighten the muscles you'd use to stop urine midstream. Hold for 5 seconds. Then relax. Start with 5 to 10 reps a day. Build from there. Do them while watching TV, waiting at a red light, or sitting in bed. No one can see you doing it, but your body? It'll notice the difference. Now, I'm not saying you have to give up your personal habits completely. Not at all. But if you're going to keep that part of your life active, do it smart. Balance it with rest. Support it with strength. And most importantly, listen when your body tells you something's not right. Because those little signs, they add up. And now that you've heard the truth, the good, the bad, and the hidden layers of how daily masturbation can affect your prostate, it's time to take a step back and reflect on what it all really means. Not just for your health, but for your peace of mind, your dignity, and your sense of control in this stage of life. Let's talk about that right now. You know, we don't talk about this enough. What it feels like to face changes in intimacy as we grow older. For many men, it's not just about physical release. It's not even about desire. It's about connection. It's about still feeling alive. Still feeling like a man. Still feeling wanted, even if it's just by yourself. But when your body starts changing, when what used to be simple now feels confusing or uncomfortable, when guilt creeps in, or fear, or silence, it can leave you feeling like you're the only one going through it. But let me say this clearly. You're not. You are not alone. There are millions of men, just like you, wrestling with the same questions. Wondering if they're doing too much or too little. Worried about cancer. Confused by changes in their energy, their bladder, their mood. And unsure if what they've been doing all these years is still okay. And you know what? That confusion, that uncertainty, it's okay. It's honest. It's human. But here's what I want you to take from this. Instead of fearing whether you're doing it right or wrong, shift the question. Start asking yourself, am I aware? Am I listening to my body? Am I making choices with care and respect for myself? Because this isn't about rules. It's not about shame. It's about understanding. It's about putting your health first, not by cutting out pleasure, but by keeping it in harmony with your well-being. If you've been experiencing discomfort, if your habits feel more compulsive than calming, if you've noticed changes in your urination, your energy, or your emotional state, don't ignore it. Please, check in with your doctor. You'd be surprised how many issues can be addressed early, easily, and with far less fear than you imagined. You don't have to wait until something goes wrong to take care of yourself. And if you're someone who's realizing today, maybe for the first time, wow, I've never actually thought about what this means for my prostate, then I'm proud of you. Because awareness is the first step, and taking responsibility for your own health, even in quiet, private matters, is a sign of strength. And if you've got some things to adjust, that's not failure, that's wisdom. The kind of wisdom that says, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I still care about myself enough to do better. Because aging doesn't mean giving up your needs. It means honoring them with more care, more intention, and more compassion than ever before. So here's your reminder. You're not broken. You're not wrong. You're simply a man walking through a season of life that deserves patience, understanding, and support. And you don't have to walk it alone. Let's take a moment to bring it all together. We talked about how daily masturbation can actually relieve pressure in the prostate, a natural release that in moderation may bring real comfort. We explored how too much can cause inflammation or irritation, especially if you're dealing with an already sensitive gland. We looked at some of the most fascinating research suggesting that regular ejaculation might help lower your prostate cancer risk. A hopeful, encouraging sign that science is learning right alongside us. We opened the door to a deeper truth, that this habit, when done compulsively, can subtly impact your hormones, your mood, and your mental clarity, especially if it becomes a coping mechanism, not a conscious choice. And we ended by lifting the veil on your pelvic floor, a part of the body few men are ever taught about, yet one that plays a crucial role in urination, stability, and intimate control. You see, there's no one-size-fits-all answer here, but there is one constant: awareness. Because when you pay attention to your body without judgment, without shame, you take back the power to live well, to feel well, to age well. So I want to hear from you. Which part of this conversation surprised you the most? Was it the connection to cancer? The role of the pelvic floor? Or maybe just realizing that it's okay to ask these questions in the first place? Drop a comment down below. Let's talk about it. Not because we're trying to debate, but because we're building a community, a place where men can learn, support, and age with dignity together. And if this video meant something to you, if it helped you think a little deeper or breathe a little easier, consider hitting that subscribe button. Here at ElderWisdom, we're not afraid to talk about the hard things. From intimacy to memory loss, from prostate health to emotional well-being, we're here to make sure you never feel like you have to walk this road alone. So go ahead, click that bell, stay connected. We've got more important conversations coming. And above all, thank you for being here. Thank you for caring. Thank you for taking a few quiet minutes to invest in you. Until next time, stay strong, stay curious, and as always, take care of yourself and those you love. I'll see you in the next video.